good form whenever there is a bet mitzvah happening on Shabbat morning, that if you are the one giving the sermon or the drash the night before, look at what the student is speaking about the next day and speak about something else. Tonight, however, I'm going to break my own advice and do something a little bit different. Fina, I'm talking about exactly what you're talking about. You'll see why. Not because I want to steal your thunder. Now, for the rest of you, I have had the privilege to hear Fina practice her speech a number of times, and I am sincerely confident that this time a week from now, or this time a year from now, everyone who hears Fina speak tomorrow will remember what she spoke about, and you will have forgotten everything that I am saying now. That, by the way, is my goal for every sermon that I give. Now, I am talking about what Fina is talking about broadly because, Fina, you inspired me with your words, and it's only fair to pass that inspiration on to all of you. And please, if anything I say inspires you, pay it forward in honor of Fina, who started this whole chain. I know we have some people who are in a synagogue for the first time, and again, welcome if that is you. So for those that this is far from the first time you have been here, I hope you will allow me to give a little bit of background to our guests at this point. I know for many of you, this is stuff that you know very well. But some basics here. In the Jewish tradition, we read a portion called a parashah of the Torah. That is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And we read a portion of those in order each week. Now, I mentioned we're weeks away from Rosh Hashanah, which is the start of the new year. And Simchat Torah is when we actually reset the Torah, which comes soon after that. All to say, we are near the end of the Torah. We are in the book of Deuteronomy. And the name of the Torah portion that we read this Shabbat is called Shoftim, or in English, often translated as judges or magistrates. And Torah portions get their names not based on any theme, but on the first word, or at least the first significant word in the Torah portion. But often, and I couldn't tell you why, but that first significant word is the theme of the whole portion, and that is certainly true this week. The parashah focuses on law, judges, and justice. The most famous line in this Torah portion, and one of the most famous lines in the entire Torah, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, translated as justice, justice, you shall pursue. And there's a bit of explanation that I need to give that is necessary to appreciate this line. You see, in the Torah, there is no punctuation, at least not as we think of it. There are no commas, there are no periods, there are no semicolons. If you wanted to be clever, you could say it's an 80,000 word run-on sentence, but that's a little bit too clever because there are essentially paragraph breaks in almost every column and larger breaks between the 5 books. Regardless, though, there is essentially no punctuation. And there is a simple reason for this, for why the Torah doesn't have any. There wasn't any when the Torah was written. The marks we're all used to, and that pepper our English language, or whatever language it is we speak, those started to appear widely in the 5th century of the Common Era. Now, fortunately, the Torah was written after the invention of putting a space between words. Thank God. Okay. What does that have to do with anything? The authors of the Torah did not have the tools that we have to indicate importance or significance or emphasis in a sentence. And that would also include things like italics or bold or underline. But that doesn't mean they didn't have the desire to emphasize certain words above others. So how did they do that? They used the one tool that they could think of at their disposal: repetition. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Or in English, justice. It is justice that you should be seeking. Flipped the other way, of all the things that one could pursue, justice is the one to focus on. So take a minute, figurative minute, we don't have time for that, but think to yourself, if you wanted to follow this mitzvah, this command to pursue justice, what would you actually do? Or put another way, if someone asked you at the oneg, hey, nice to meet you, what's your favorite hobby? And your answer was, I enjoy pursuing justice. Now, we have to assume that the person does not promptly end the conversation at that point and walk away, but if they did not and were to ask that obvious follow-up question, okay, but what do you actually do? Like, what does that mean? What is it that you would say? I'm pretty sure if I ask 10 people right now, I would get 10 completely different answers. So, what good is the Torah then? Fortunately, the Torah gives us some guidance. Remember, I said the name of the portion often is a recurring theme, so we have plenty of concrete examples of what justice looks like according to the Torah portion this week. Some examples: a judge must not take bribes and must judge fairly, showing no deference or preference to the mighty or the weak in any way. No one can be convicted of any kind of crime on the testimony of only one witness. If someone commits manslaughter, in this case defined as the completely unintentional death of another person, they may flee to one of 3 cities of refuge that we all must provide and build, and they are allowed to do so that the dead person's family cannot take revenge on this person despite them having committed no intentional wrong. A king must abide by the same rules as everyone else and must not amass excessive gold. Don't move the property markers separating your land from your neighbors. Elsewhere in the Torah, if we open up our search broader beyond this small portion, we read about not putting stumbling blocks before the blinds or cursing the deaf. We read about having honest weights and measures, which is essentially saying in business dealings, even if you could get away with shorting someone or cheating them, you do not. We read about protecting the widow, the orphan, the foreigner, a commandment repeated more than any other. We read to pay day laborers the same day that they labor, as they are likely to need that money the same day desperately if they are going to eat that night. You will have the same law for you and the foreigners among us. And yes, the Torah does allow for capital punishment. However, the Mishnah famously teaches, the Mishnah codified in the year 200 approximately, famously teaches a Sanhedrin. We can think of it roughly as a Supreme Court, roughly. But a Sanhedrin that puts a person to death once in 7 years is called a murderous court. And the Mishnah goes on from there. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says, not 7 years, once in 70 years. And the Mishnah goes further. Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva, these are great giants of Jewish scholarship, say, if we had been alive to have been on this court, no death sentence would have ever been carried out. So, what is justice according to the Torah? It's what we refer to today as social justice, creating a just society where the voiceless are given a voice, where the powerful have their power restrained, where courts are honest and laws are reasonable, and they are applied equally to all. Except just one small caveat. That is not all the Torah says about justice. That's not all this Torah portion says about justice. Just 4 verses after we are told to pursue justice, we are told that if anyone among us is caught practicing another religion, they are to be put to death. Anyone who gives false testimony in court, they will receive the punishment the defendant would have received had they been found guilty. Caveat, I don't know quite how I feel about that one, but we'll save that. Another, the consequence for disobeying a court order or even deviating slightly from the order of the court is death. And if we look elsewhere in the Torah, oh boy, there are dozens of ways to get a death sentence. And some we would expect, murder, rape, those sorts of things. But then there are some we might not. Cursing your parents, gathering sticks on Shabbat. Don't touch the sticks outside. That's okay. We're more lenient here. Continuing the list, if a woman is suspected of adultery, she must undergo the sota ritual. She drinks a potion of water mixed with a bit of dirt from under the temple's marble floor, a bitter herb, and the rubbed off dried ink of the text of the Torah's description of this ritual, including the name of God. And if her stomach becomes distended after doing so, it shows that she must be guilty, and she dies. Incidentally, there is no equivalent version of this ritual for men. Pinchas is a hero, has a Torah portion named after him. He's a hero because he saw an interfaith couple together and he promptly killed them both. In that bit about the court considered bloody for handing down one death sentence in 70 years, people almost never include the next line, the one that comes immediately after Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva say, if we'd been there, there'd have been no death sentences. Rabbi Gamliel, another giant, pipes in immediately after and says, if that were to have been so, they would have multiplied the murderers in Israel. I have a theory about why tzedek, tzedek tirdof is such a beloved line of Torah. It can mean whatever it is you want it to mean. And I don't think we realize each one of us has a different definition of what justice actually is, about what the Torah is trying to tell us. To some, justice is advocating for civil rights and civil liberties. For others, justice is tough, mandatory minimum sentences or taking the air conditioning out of prisons, and so on. So how on earth are you supposed to know what kind of justice the Torah is telling us to pursue? Now, I know what you're all thinking. The rabbi will tell us. But I'm going to share you something that clergy don't often say, but that you already know. I or you or anyone can make the Torah say whatever it is we want it to say. Jewish pro-choice groups and Jewish pro-life groups each quote the same Torah in support of their opposing positions. Pro-choice rabbi here, by the way. I need to say that since we have guests. But back to justice, and come back for Repro Shabbat, Reproduction Rights Shabbat, which we have every spring here at Beit Haverim, along with hundreds of congregations across the country. Back to justice. A concept that can mean anything ends up meaning nothing. So again, why even look to the Torah for any guidance? It's the wrong question to ask, despite me being the one to ask it to myself. The Torah is not an instruction book. It is not some fad diet that you meticulously follow, portioning out your grapes by the gram. If that's the sort of religion you seek, the kind where you simply follow a bunch of rules someone tells you to, you have a lot of options out there, but Judaism is not one of them. There are plenty of people, plenty of Jews who will tell you otherwise. There are Jews who will call themselves Torah true Jews. That label implies that there are Torah false Jews. By the way, that would be all of us in this room. Classy, right? But for those Torah true Jews who call themselves that, go ask them where they keep the stoning stones for when their child curses at them, or what family recipe they like to use for the sota ritual when they suspect their spouse has been cheating. Call yourself a Torah true Jew. It's just saying my truth is the truth, which paradoxically is the antithesis of the Jewish faith. Go open a page of Talmud if you don't believe me. Read the rabbis arguing amongst each other. Half the time, their argument ends with teku, which is Aramaic for, I don't know. Look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. So again, what is the point of Torah? I'm actually going to answer my question this time. The point of Torah is not to tell you what to think. It is to tell you to think. The Torah offers multiple contradictory definitions of justice. It's up to you and me, all of us, to take those, to think about them, and then for us to decide what justice ought to mean. Now, I will concede that has the distinct disadvantage of being a lot harder than having a rabbi do the thinking for you. However, it has the distinct advantage of being honest. Tomorrow, you are going to hear from Fina about what justice means to her. And this whole sermon tonight, the whole reason I'm talking about this is because when I heard her speech, Fina offered a definition that I had never heard before, and a definition I am not going to forget. Fina's sermon tomorrow ends with a profound question, a question that I have been mulling over since I first heard it 3 weeks ago. So I'm going to follow her lead and attempt to end with my own question, not nearly as profound as hers, but it's enough to get you through until 10 o'clock tomorrow. Here's my question to think about until then. What is it that justice means to you? Ken Yehi Ratzon, may justice in all its meanings be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.